My brother demanded I sing at him graduation party 8 weeks after vocal cord surgery that could end my career. I gave him the celebration he will never forget. My brother Brandon ruined my Juilliard audition when I was 17. He was 19 and already the family favorite. The night before my audition, he told our parents I'd been sneaking out to parties. Total lie. Dad grounded me, took my car keys, said I could take the bus to the audition in the morning, except he forgot to leave bus money. By the time I walked the 8 miles to the audition venue, I was 2 hours late. They wouldn't let me perform. That scholarship was my only shot at music school. Dad said it was my fault for being irresponsible. Brandon just shrugged and said maybe it was a sign I should pick a more practical career. I ended up at community college working 3 jobs to pay for voice lessons on the side. But here's the thing about starting from the bottom. You learn to fight for every opportunity. I spent 6 years grinding, singing at weddings for $200, recording demos in sketchy studios, teaching kids music classes at the YMCA. I uploaded covers to YouTube every week. Nothing fancy, just me and a keyboard in my apartment. One of those covers went viral. 4 million views in a month. A talent scout reached out. Suddenly, I'm singing backup for actual touring artists. Then I'm doing my own small venues, then bigger ones. Last year, I signed with a real label. My debut album comes out next month. The advance was $400,000. I bought a house. Meanwhile, Brandon became exactly what our parents wanted. Dental degree, suburban house, 2 kids, a wife who manages a bank. He got $80,000 from our parents for his wedding. They gave me a $50 gift card. I didn't complain, just kept building my career. Haven't been to a family event in 3 years. Brandon never called to congratulate me on the record deal. Neither did Dad. Then 2 months ago, I had vocal cord surgery. Polyps from years of overuse. Doctor said no singing for 12 weeks minimum, or I could permanently damage my voice. I'm 8 weeks into recovery. Can't even hum without pain. Posted about it online so my fans would know why I'm not performing. Got thousands of supportive messages. Not one from family. Then last week, Brandon calls. First time hearing from him in literally 18 months. Doesn't ask about my surgery. Doesn't ask about my album. He's getting his MBA and the graduation party is next month. He wants me to sing at it. Not just any song. He wants me to perform his favorite song, the one that went viral, in front of all his classmates. It would mean so much to have my famous sister perform, he said. I reminded him I just had surgery. Can't sing for another month minimum. He literally laughed. Come on, one song won't hurt. You sing for strangers all the time, but not for your own brother? I said I physically cannot sing right now. Doctor's orders. He said I was being selfish and jealous of his achievements. Then Dad called an hour later. Your brother worked so hard for this degree. The least you can do is support him. I told him about the surgery again. He said I was exaggerating, that I could surely manage one song if I really wanted to, that Brandon already told all his friends I'd be performing, that I was embarrassing the family by being difficult. The calls haven't stopped. Every single day. Dad, Brandon, even Brandon's wife, Jenna. Just lip sync if you have to. Take some throat lozenges. Stop punishing Brandon for being successful. The entitlement was insane. They wanted me to risk my entire career, my voice, my livelihood for Brandon's party. The same brother who destroyed my chance at music school. Yesterday, I'd had enough. I called my friend Louise, who's also my manager. Told her I needed her to come with me to handle some family business. She knows my history with them. Didn't even hesitate. We drove 6 hours to Brandon City. The graduation party was today. Big fancy country club. Probably cost 20 grand. We walked in just as Brandon was giving some speech about his journey and accomplishments. He saw me and his face lit up. Actually announced to everyone that his sister, the recording artist, had arrived to perform. The whole room turned to look at me. 200 people. All his classmates, professors, colleagues. Dad was beaming like he'd organized the whole thing. I walked straight to the microphone. Brandon handed it to me, already pulling up the backing track on his phone. Thank you, Brandon, I said, voice echoing through the speakers. But I won't be singing today, or ever, for your events. See, when someone sabotages your Juilliard audition at 17, lies to get you grounded the night before, and cost you your only shot at music school, you learn not to sacrifice your career for them, especially when they demand you sing 8 weeks after vocal surgery that could end your career if you damage it further. But congratulations on your MBA. The color drained from his face. Dad walked toward me and slapped me hard. The security guard got between me and Dad before he could swing again. Louise grabbed my arm and pulled me back from the microphone. The whole country club went silent. 200 people staring at us. Brandon's face turned from white to bright red. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I could hear his MBA classmates whispering to each other. One of them had their phone up recording. Louise kept her hand on my shoulder and guided me toward the exit. My legs felt shaky, but I kept walking. The crowd parted as we moved through. Someone gasped. A woman put her hand over her mouth. Brandon's wife, Jenna, stood frozen by the bar with her drink halfway to her lips. Dad started yelling something behind us, but Louise didn't let me stop. We pushed through the double doors and into the lobby. The country club manager stood there looking confused. Louise didn't slow down. She led me straight through the front entrance and into the parking lot. The cool air hit my face and my hands started shaking. Really shaking. Like I couldn't control them at all. Louise unlocked her car and opened the passenger door. I got in and my whole body started trembling. She closed the door and ran around to the driver's side. My phone buzzed in my purse. Then again, non-stop buzzing. Louise reached over and took my purse. She pulled out my phone and turned it off. The screen went dark. She handed me a water bottle from the cup holder. I tried to open it, but my hands were shaking too much. She took took it back and opened it for me. I drank some water. My cheek hurt where Dad hit me. The skin felt hot and tight. Louise started the car and pulled out of the parking lot. I looked back at the country club building. People were coming out the front doors. Brandon stood there with his arms crossed. Dad was next to him pointing at Louise's car. We turned onto the main road and they disappeared from view. Louise drove for an hour before either of us said anything. I stared out the window, watching the highway signs go by. Trees and buildings and gas stations. My face still hurt. My throat felt tight even though I hadn't tried to talk or sing. Louise kept glancing over at me every few minutes, making sure I was okay. The sun started setting and the sky turned orange and pink. I thought about what I'd just done, standing up in front of all those people and telling them what Brandon did, what Dad did, years of staying quiet and taking it. And now everyone knew. Brandon's classmates knew, his professors knew, his wife's friends knew. I spoke my truth after all this time, but my face hurt, and I could already imagine the calls coming, the texts, the voicemails, Dad screaming at me, Brandon calling me horrible names. Mom probably wouldn't call at all, just like always. Louise reached over and squeezed my hand for a second, then put her hand back on the wheel. The highway stretched out in front of us. Still 5 hours to go until we got home. We stopped at a rest area halfway home. Louise needed gas and I needed to use the bathroom. My legs felt stiff from sitting. I walked into the rest stop building. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The bathroom was empty. I went into a stall and then came out to wash my hands. That's when I saw my reflection in the mirror. A red mark covered my left cheek. Bright red, like someone had painted it there. The edges were starting to turn purple, a bruise forming. I touched it gently and winced. It hurt worse than I thought. The door opened and an older woman came in. She glanced at me and her eyes went straight to my cheek. Her expression changed, concerned, worried. I looked away and dried my hands. Louise was waiting outside the bathroom. She saw my face and her jaw tightened. She pulled out her phone and held it up. I didn't understand at first. Then she pointed at my cheek. She wanted to take a picture. Documentation. Evidence. I nodded. She took 3 photos from different angles. The flash made me blink. She put her phone away without saying why she wanted the photos. We both knew though, just in case. We got back in the car and drove the rest of the way home. Louise pulled into my driveway at midnight. The house was dark. I'd left in such a hurry yesterday, I forgot to leave any lights on. Louise turned off the engine, but didn't move to get out. She looked at me in the dim light from the street lamp, told me she was staying in the guest room, didn't ask, just told me. I was grateful. The adrenaline from the party was wearing off, and I felt exhausted, heavy, like my body weighed twice as much as normal. We went inside and I showed Louise where the guest room was. Fresh sheets already on the bed from the last time she stayed over. She said goodnight and closed the door. I went to my room and sat on the edge of my bed, still in the dress I'd worn to the party. My phone was still off in my purse. I didn't turn it back on, didn't want to see the messages yet. My cheek throbbed. I touched it again and the pain shot through my jaw. I got up and looked in my bathroom mirror. The bruise looked worse now, darker purple spreading across my cheekbone. I took off my dress and put on sweatpants and a t-shirt, washed my face carefully around the bruise, brushed my teeth, went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. Just stared at the ceiling, thinking about what I'd done, what happened next, what this meant for my family, for my career, for everything. I woke up to sunlight coming through my bedroom window. My phone was still off. I turned it on and waited for it to boot up. The screen lit up and notifications started flooding in. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails. The numbers kept climbing. 47 missed calls. Most from numbers I didn't recognize. Some from Brandon, some from Dad, some from Jenna. I opened my texts. Brandon had sent me a long message at 2 in the morning. Every horrible name he could think of, calling me jealous and bitter and pathetic, saying I ruined his special day because I couldn't stand seeing him succeed, that I was a failure who blamed everyone else for my problems, that I should be ashamed of myself. I deleted it without finishing. Dad left a voicemail. I played it on speaker. His voice was cold and angry. Said I was no longer welcome at family events, that I embarrassed them in front of important people, that Brandon worked hard for his MBA and I couldn't even be supportive for one day, that he was ashamed to call me his daughter. The voicemail ended. I sat there holding my phone. My cheek still hurt. The bruise probably looked worse today. I got up and went to the kitchen. Louise was already making breakfast. Eggs and toast, coffee brewing in the pot. She looked up when I came in, asked how I slept. I told her, not great. She nodded like she expected that, poured me a cup of coffee. We sat at the kitchen table and ate. I showed her some of the messages, the texts from Brandon, the voicemail from Dad. She read them carefully. Her face got hard when she finished. She said, we should document everything. Save all the messages. Keep the photos of your bruise. The slap happened in front of 200 witnesses. If this got worse, or if they tried to do something legally, we had evidence. I wasn't sure I wanted to go that route. Taking legal action against my own father felt wrong even after everything. But Louise said we should be prepared, just in case. Have everything documented and organized. I agreed. We spent the next hour screenshotting messages and organizing files, creating a timeline of events, writing down what happened at the party while it was fresh in my mind. Louise was thorough, professional. This was why she was such a good manager. My phone rang at 9 in the morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but Louise nodded at me. I picked up. A man's voice, professional. He said his name was Nathan and he was my publicist. I'd forgotten the label assigned me a publicist last month. We'd only talked once. He asked if I'd seen what was happening online. I said no. He told me a video of the confrontation was circulating. Someone at the party filmed the whole thing. Me at the microphone microphone telling everyone what Brandon did. Dad slapping me, Louise pulling me away. The video was posted last night and already had thousands of views, thousands of shares. People were commenting, talking about it. Nathan said he was coming over to talk about damage control, asked for my address. I gave it to him. He said he'd be there in 2 hours. The call ended. Louise and I looked at each other. A video. Of course, someone filmed it. Everyone has their phones out at parties now, recording everything. I felt sick. Not because I regretted what I said, but because now it was out there forever. No taking it back. No pretending it didn't happen. Nathan showed up exactly 2 hours later. He was younger than I expected, maybe 30, dressed professionally in a blazer and nice jeans. He had a laptop bag over his shoulder. Louise let him in, and we sat in my living room. He opened his laptop and pulled up the video, asked if I wanted to watch it. I said yes. He turned the screen toward me and pressed play. There I was, walking up to the microphone, Brandon handing it to me with this huge smile. Then my voice coming through the speakers, telling everyone about the Juilliard audition, about the sabotage, about the surgery, about risking my career. The camera shook a little but caught everything. Brandon's face going pale. Dad walking toward me. The slap. The sound of it echoed in my quiet living room. Louise pulling me back. The crowd's reaction. Gasps and whispers. The video ended. Nathan closed the laptop. He looked at me and said, "This might actually help your career instead of hurting it." I stared at him. He explained that people were responding with overwhelming support. The comments were calling Brandon and Dad out for their behavior, praising me for standing up to family pressure, talking about how brave I was, how real. The video had 500,000 views now. Major music blogs were picking up the story, writing articles. Nathan pulled up his phone and showed me some headlines. He said we should lean into this moment, release a statement that's honest about my family situation and my vocal recovery, turn this into part of my artist story instead of trying to hide it or downplay it. I sat down with Nathan and Louise at my kitchen table, laptop open between us. Nathan pulled up a blank document and asked me to tell him everything I wanted people to know. I started with the Juilliard audition, how Brandon lied to get me grounded, how Dad took my car keys and forgot bus money, walking 8 miles in the cold, missing my only shot at music school. Nathan typed while I talked. Then I told him about the surgery, the polyps, doctor's orders for 12 weeks of no singing, how I'm only 8 weeks into recovery, how singing now could permanently damage my voice, how Brandon called after 18 months of silence demanding I perform, how the whole family pressured me for days. Nathan kept typing. Louise added details I'd forgotten, the daily phone calls, Jenna's suggestion to lip sync, Dad saying I was exaggerating. When I finished talking, Nathan read the statement back to us. It was perfect, direct, honest, no drama, just facts. He asked if I wanted to add anything. I said no. He posted it on my social media accounts, all of them, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We sat there watching the screen refresh. The first like came within seconds, then 10 more, then 50. Comments started rolling in, people saying they supported me, other musicians sharing their own family stories, fans saying they understood why I couldn't perform. Within 20 minutes, we had 5,000 likes, 30 minutes, 15,000. An hour later, 50,000 likes and counting. The comments kept coming, thousands of them. Artists I admired were sharing my post. Music blogs were picking it up. Nathan smiled and said this was going exactly as he hoped. My phone started ringing. Unknown numbers. Nathan told me not to answer. He'd handle all media requests. Then my email dinged. Nathan opened it on his laptop and read it silently for a second before his eyebrows lifted. A journalist named Augusta wanted to interview me. Nathan knew her work. She wrote for a major music magazine. Long profiles about artists, deep dives into their careers and personal stories, not gossip stuff, real journalism. He pulled up some of her past articles and turned the screen toward me so I could scroll through them myself. They were good, thoughtful, the kind of pieces that made you understand an artist better. She wrote about people the way you'd talk about someone you actually cared about, patient and curious, never reaching for the cheap angle. Nathan said, "This could be huge for your album launch. Turn your personal story into part of your artist brand. Show people the journey from sabotaged audition to record deal." He said Augusta didn't reach out to just anyone, that her attention meant the story was landing with the right people. He asked if I was comfortable doing it. I thought about it for a moment, about how much of myself I'd have to hand over, and then I said yes. He replied to Augusta right there, typing fast, and set up a phone interview for 2 days later. My phone rang again. This time I recognized the number. Mom. I stared at the screen while it buzzed in my hand, my thumb hovering, not sure whether I wanted to answer or let it go to voicemail like all the others. Nathan nodded at me. I answered. Mom's voice sounded different from how I remembered. Quieter, smaller somehow, like something in her had come loose. She said she saw my post, read the whole thing, twice. She wanted me to know she was sorry for everything, for all the years of not standing up for me. I didn't say anything, just listened. The phone pressed hard against my ear. She told me she always knew Brandon lied about me sneaking out before the Juilliard audition. She knew I wasn't at parties, knew I was home studying and practicing, could hear me running scales through my bedroom door most nights, but she didn't want to cause family conflict by saying so. Didn't want to upset Dad or make Brandon look bad, so she stayed silent. Let me take the blame. Let me lose my scholarship chance. My throat felt tight, not from surgery, from anger. I told Mom her silence enabled Brandon's behavior, that it hurt me just as much as Dad's active favoritism, that watching her stay quiet all those years made me feel invisible, like I didn't matter enough enough to defend. I told her a slap leaves a mark you can see, but the quiet leaves one nobody believes you about. Mom got quiet on the other end. I could hear her breathing, uneven, like she was trying not to cry. Then she asked if we could meet for coffee. Just the two of us. Talk things through properly. I was surprised. Mom never asked to meet one-on-one, never tried to have real conversations, never once in my whole life sat across the table from me without Dad or Brandon there to steer it. I said maybe I'd think about it. She said she understood, didn't push, just asked me to call her when I was ready. The call ended. I set the phone face down on the table and stared at it. Louise squeezed my shoulder. Nathan closed his laptop and said he'd be in touch about the Augusta interview. He left around noon. Louise stayed. We ordered food and watched TV without really watching it. The same episode playing while neither of us said much. My mind kept spinning, replaying Mom's voice, that smallness in it, wondering if it was real. 2 days later, I did the phone interview with Augusta. It lasted 2 hours. She started slow, easy questions, where I grew up, when I first knew I could sing, and somewhere in there, I stopped feeling like I was being interviewed at all. She asked about everything. Growing up with Brandon, the Juilliard audition, community college and 3 jobs, years of grinding, YouTube covers, the viral video, getting signed, the surgery, the graduation party confrontation. I told her things I'd never shared publicly. Details about those early years, how broke I was, the month I lived on rice and canned soup so I could afford one more lesson, how many times I almost quit, how much the music meant to me even when it gave me nothing back. Augusta listened, really listened, didn't interrupt, let the silences sit until I filled them with the truth. She asked good follow-up questions, the kind that showed she'd actually heard the thing underneath the thing, made me feel heard in a way I hadn't been in a long time. When we finished, I felt scraped out, but lighter. She said the article would run in 3 weeks, right before my album dropped. Perfect timing. That same afternoon, my phone rang. Dr. Campbell's office scheduling my checkup. The receptionist gave me a date and time. I wrote it down on the back of an envelope, hung up. Then I noticed my throat felt tight, painful in a way it hadn't been before. Not from talking on the phone, just constant tension. A dull ache that sat low in my neck and wouldn't leave. I'd been unconsciously clenching my jaw, tensing my neck muscles, holding my shoulders up around my ears for days without realizing it. The stress of everything was showing up physically. I touched my throat gently, pressed along the side of it. It hurt. A quiet fear crawled up in me, the one I'd been trying not to name, that after all of this my voice still might not come back right. I called Louise and told her. She said I needed to mention it at the checkup, make sure it wasn't affecting my recovery, and not to spiral about it before I had real information. The appointment came. Dr. Campbell did her usual examination, looked at my vocal cords with the scope, said the healing was progressing well, no complications. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, but then she felt my neck and shoulders, pressing with 2 fingers along the muscle, asked me to swallow, watched my throat move. She frowned a little. She said I was carrying a lot of tension, physical stress that could slow my recovery or cause other problems if I let it settle in. She said the cords were healing fine, but everything around them was fighting itself. She wrote down a name and number, a voice therapist named Fiona who specialized in helping singers recover from surgery and manage performance anxiety. Dr. Campbell said Fiona could teach me techniques to release the tension, that she'd sent a lot of singers her way and they always came back better. I took the paper, folded it into my pocket, and called Fiona's office from the parking lot, sitting in Louise's car with the heater running. They had a cancellation. I got an appointment for the next day. When I showed up, Fiona was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, calm voice, easy smile. Her studio was small and warm, comfortable chairs, soft lighting, a piano in the corner, and framed records on the walls. She asked me to sit and tell her what was going on, and then she just waited, like she had all the time in the world. I explained the surgery, the family confrontation, the viral video, the constant phone calls and messages, how my throat felt tight and painful even though the vocal cords were healing. Fiona nodded like she'd heard this before, like none of it surprised her. She said, emotional stress manifests as physical tension in the throat and neck, especially for singers. Our voices are tied to our emotions. When we're stressed or upset, we unconsciously tighten those muscles. It's protective, but it can interfere with healing. She said the body remembers what the mind tries to push down, and for singers, it usually remembers it right where the sound lives. She had me stand up, put one hand on my stomach and one on my chest, taught me breathing exercises, deep breaths from the diaphragm, slow exhales, showing me how my chest hand should barely move while the other rose and fell. We did it for 10 minutes, and by the end my shoulders had dropped a full inch. Then she showed me gentle vocal warm-ups, nothing that would strain my healing cords, just humming at low volumes, sliding between notes carefully, releasing tension bit by bit. For the first time in days, my throat started to feel less tight, less painful. The pressure eased, like a fist slowly opening. Fiona scheduled me for twice-weekly sessions, said we'd work on both the physical tension and the emotional stress driving it, that you couldn't fix one without the other. I left feeling lighter, standing a little taller than when I walked in. Got home and found a new voicemail. Jenna, Brandon's wife, her voice was angry, loud, spilling over itself. She said I ruined Brandon's celebration, made him look bad in front of his colleagues, that he was devastated and humiliated, that I was a selfish attention seeker who couldn't let him have one special day. The voicemail went on for 2 minutes, every word dripping with anger, and not once in all of it did she ask about my surgery or the bruise on my face. face. I played it for Louise when she came over that evening. Her jaw clenched, her protective instincts kicked in hard. She wanted to call Jenna back, tear into her, defend me. I put my hand on her arm, told her to let it go. Engaging would only make things worse, give them more ammunition, more reasons to play victim. Louise didn't like it, sat there breathing through it for a second, but she agreed. She deleted Jenna's number from my phone so I wouldn't be tempted to respond. The next day, my phone started blowing up with notifications like crazy. The video hit 2 million views overnight. My social media was full of messages from people I didn't know. Reporters, journalists, TV producers, everyone wanted to talk about what happened at the party. Louise came over early that morning with coffee and her laptop. She showed me the numbers. The video was everywhere. Entertainment blogs, music websites, even regular news sites were picking it up. People were sharing it with comments about toxic families and standing up for yourself. The support was overwhelming. Nathan called at 8 a.m. sharp. His voice was excited but controlled. He had a list. Morning shows wanted me. Podcasts wanted interviews. Entertainment programs were reaching out. He said we needed to be smart about this. Pick the right platform. Tell my story the right way. We spent 2 hours on the phone going through options. Some places just wanted drama. They'd twist my words, make it sensational. Others seemed more interested in the real story, my journey, how I got here. Nathan reminded me about Augusta, the feature she was already writing. He said the timing was ideal. Her piece would run right before the album, and it would frame everything the way we wanted. I trusted him. He let people tell their stories without making them sound fake or dramatic. He asked real questions, got real answers. I told Nathan to keep it moving. A few days later, Mom texted, asked if I'd meet her for coffee, just the two of us. I stared at that text for a long time. Wasn't sure I wanted to see her. Wasn't sure what she could possibly say that would matter, but I agreed. Picked a coffee shop halfway between our cities, neutral ground. When I walked in, Mom was already there, sitting at a corner table. She looked older than I remembered, more tired, gray hair, lines around her eyes. She stood up when she saw me, gave me this awkward half hug. We sat down, ordered coffee, didn't talk for a minute, then Mom started. Said she was sorry, that she should have stood up for me years ago, that she took the easy path by going along with Dad, by letting him favor Brandon, by staying quiet when she knew things weren't fair. I just listened, didn't interrupt. She said watching that video gutted her, seeing me finally speak up, seeing Dad slap me, realizing how badly they'd all failed me. She admitted she always knew Brandon lied about me sneaking out before Juilliard. She knew I wasn't partying, knew I was home studying and practicing, but she didn't say anything because it would have caused a fight with Dad, would have made Brandon angry. So she let me take the fall, let me lose that audition, let my whole future change because speaking up was too hard. Then she said something that shocked me. She'd been helping pay for my voice lessons. Years ago, when I was at community college working 3 jobs, I used to get checks in the mail from someone I thought was a distant aunt. Turns out it was Mom. She'd been sending me money for lessons without telling Dad, supporting my music in secret while publicly staying silent. I didn't know what to say, didn't know how to feel. Part of me was grateful. She'd helped when I desperately needed it, but another part was angry. Why hide it? Why not stand up for me openly? Why help in secret, but let Dad and Brandon treat me like garbage in public? We talked for 3 hours. Mom explained that Dad always favored Brandon because Brandon did everything the traditional way. College, dental school, marriage, kids, the life Dad wanted for both of us. When I chose music, Dad saw it as rejection, as me being difficult and impractical. Mom said it wasn't fair, wasn't right, but that's how Dad saw it. And she went along with it because fighting Dad was exhausting. I asked her why she was telling me this now. She said because she couldn't stay quiet anymore, couldn't watch me suffer and pretend everything was fine. She asked if there was any way to fix our relationship. I told her the truth, that I appreciated the apology, appreciated knowing about the voice lesson money, but that one conversation didn't undo years of her letting Dad and Brandon hurt me. That if she really wanted to repair things, she needed to actually stand up to them, not just apologize to me in private. She promised she'd try, said she'd talk to Dad, tell him how wrong he'd been. I wasn't sure I believed her, wasn't sure she'd actually follow through, but I thanked her for meeting me, for being honest. We finished our coffee, hugged goodbye. I drove home feeling weird. Not better exactly, but maybe slightly less alone. 2 weeks later, the Augusta article came out. The headline read, "From Sabotage to Stardom, How One Artist Turned Family Betrayal into Fuel for Success." I read it 3 times. Augusta had captured everything. My voice, my story, the struggle, and the determination. She didn't make it dramatic or fake, just told it honestly. Showed how I'd built a career despite everything working against me. The article went viral immediately, shared thousands of times. My social media exploded. People commenting about how inspiring it was, how they related to difficult family situations, how they admired me for not giving up. Within 48 hours, my album pre-orders jumped 300%. My label called ecstatic. They wanted to move the release date up 2 weeks, capitalize on all this attention, which meant I needed to be ready for promotion sooner than planned. More interviews, more content, more everything. Nathan was already working on it. He booked me for a major morning show 3 weeks away, right after my 12-week vocal clearance appointment with Dr. Campbell. If she approved me to sing again, I could perform my single live on national television. The timing was perfect. Scary, but perfect. Then Brandon posted a long rant on his social media, called me a liar, said I made up the Juilliard story for publicity, claimed our family had always supported my music career, that I was twisting things to make myself look like a victim, that he never sabotaged anything. The post was desperate, angry, full of lies that anyone who knew us could see through, but he posted it anyway, probably hoping to control the narrative, make himself look better. It backfired immediately. People started posting old screenshots within 3 hours. One showed Brandon commenting on my YouTube channel 4 years ago, saying my covers were amateur and embarrassing. Another was from his Facebook where he told someone I was wasting my time with music when I should get a real job. A guy who went to high school with us posted that he remembered Brandon bragging about getting me grounded before my Juilliard audition, said he laughed about it at a party that same week. More people piled on. A girl from Brandon's dental school program shared a story about Brandon stealing her research notes and passing them off as his own work. Someone from his MBA program posted about Brandon throwing a classmate under the bus during a group project to make himself look better. The receipts kept coming, screenshots, photos, detailed stories with dates and witnesses. Every hour brought new evidence that Brandon was exactly who I said he was. His desperate post trying to call me a liar only made people dig deeper into his past. The comments on his original post turned brutal, people calling him out for lying, pointing out the contradictions, asking why he never mentioned supporting my music career if he was such a great brother. His attempt to control the story blew up in his face completely. By evening, someone had compiled all the evidence into a Twitter thread that went viral on its own. The thread had screenshots of Brandon's mean comments about my music, testimony from people who knew about the Juilliard sabotage, and stories from his classmates about his entitled behavior. It got shared thousands of times. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification around 8:00 p.m. Dad's voice came through the speaker, angry and shaky at the same time. He said I needed to make a public statement defending Brandon immediately, said I was tearing the family apart and destroying Brandon's reputation, that I needed to tell everyone I made it all up or exaggerated or misunderstood what happened. He said this media circus had to stop and it was my responsibility to fix it. I deleted the voicemail without responding. Louise sat across from me at my kitchen table with her laptop open. We spent the next 2 hours mapping out my promotional schedule for the album. She built an extra rest time between commitments, scheduled shorter interview sessions, made sure nothing would strain my voice before I was fully healed. We planned content I could create without singing, behind-the-scenes videos, Q&A sessions, photo shoots for the album artwork. Louise understood my limitations and worked around them instead of pushing me to do more than I could handle. 3 days later, I met Fiona at her studio for another session. She had me do gentle humming exercises that felt strange after weeks of silence. We worked on breathing techniques that released the tension in my neck and shoulders. She watched my posture carefully and corrected small things that would help my voice heal properly. Fiona said my discipline impressed her. Most singers push too hard too fast and set back their recovery. She told me my voice would come back stronger than before because I was learning proper technique during the healing process. We started meeting 3 times a week, each session built on the last one. Gentle exercises that gradually increased in difficulty. Fiona monitored everything closely and adjusted based on how my throat felt each day. My 11-week checkup with Dr. Campbell happened on a Tuesday morning. She examined my vocal cords with the scope and nodded while looking at the images on her screen. Said the healing looked excellent, no inflammation or complications. If everything stayed this good at the 12-week mark, she would clear me to start singing again with some limitations. Short performances only for the first month after clearance. Nothing too demanding on my voice. I spent my days doing promotional work that didn't require singing. A photographer came to my house for an album cover shoot. We tried different outfits and lighting setups for 6 hours. I recorded video content for social media, talked about my creative process and the stories behind each song, did written interviews with music blogs and magazines. The forced vocal rest actually helped me develop other parts of my artistry. I learned to communicate about my music in new ways. My phone rang while I was editing photos for Instagram. Mom's number showed on the screen. I answered and she sounded tired. She told me she confronted Dad about everything, about the Juilliard incident and how he treated me over the years compared to Brandon. Said it didn't go well and they were barely speaking now. But she finally said what needed to be said even though it caused a huge fight. I thanked her for standing up for me. Then I told her the truth. That one conversation didn't undo years of her letting Dad and Brandon hurt me while she stayed quiet. That appreciation wasn't the same as forgiveness. She said she understood, asked if we could have regular coffee meetings to rebuild our relationship slowly, actually work on fixing things instead of just apologizing. I agreed to try. The 12-week checkup arrived on a Thursday morning. Dr. Campbell did a thorough examination that took almost an hour. She checked my vocal cords from multiple angles, had me do gentle vocal exercises while she monitored, reviewed all my progress notes from Fiona. Then she smiled and said my vocal cords had healed beautifully, with no complications. She officially cleared me to start singing again, with gradual increases in intensity over the next month. I could do short performances, but needed to avoid anything too demanding for another 4 weeks. I started crying right there in the doctor's office. Not sad crying, relief crying. The kind where you can't stop because you've been holding your breath for 3 months waiting to hear those words. Louise stood up from her chair and hugged me while Dr. Campbell smiled and printed out my clearance paperwork. My voice was coming back. I could sing again. Dr. Campbell reminded me to take it slow and gave me a list of restrictions for the next month. No performances longer than 30 minutes, no screaming or shouting, plenty of water and rest between sessions. I nodded and wiped my face with the tissue she handed me. Louise drove me straight to Fiona's studio because I'd already texted her the good news, and she wanted to start working with me immediately. Fiona had cleared her afternoon schedule just for this. She met us at the door with the biggest grin and led me into the practice room where she'd set up recording equipment just in case my voice sounded good enough to capture. Louise sat on the couch against the wall while Fiona and I stood near the piano. Fiona started with the gentlest warm-up exercises, humming first, then simple scales. My throat felt tight from nerves, but the sound that came out was clear, different from before, but in a good way. Fiona's eyes widened, and she gestured for me to keep going. We moved through progressively harder exercises, and my voice felt stronger with each one. The surgery had removed the polyps that caused strain for years. The proper technique I learned during recovery gave me better control. My tone was clearer and richer than it had been before the surgery. Fiona recorded everything and played it back for me. I barely recognized my own voice. It sounded professional, polished, like the voice of someone who'd actually made it. Louise was grinning from the couch, and Fiona kept saying she couldn't believe how good I sounded after just getting clearance. We spent 2 hours in that studio, and by the end, I was singing actual songs, short ones with careful breath control, but real songs with lyrics and emotion. Fiona recorded video of me performing, and the footage looked incredible, natural and raw and real. Nathan called while we were watching the playback, and I put him on speaker. He wanted to post the video immediately with a caption about resilience and healing. I agreed and sent him the file. He had it posted within 20 minutes. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of comments flooded in within the first hour. Thousands of likes and shares, people saying they were crying watching me sing again, other artists commenting with support and congratulations, fans sharing their own stories of overcoming setbacks. The video hit 100,000 views by that evening. Fiona scheduled 3 extra sessions with me over the next week to help me build strength safely. The morning show performance was in 5 days, and we needed to make sure I was ready. I practiced my single every day with Fiona monitoring closely to make sure I wasn't pushing too hard. She adjusted my technique in tiny ways that made huge differences, showed me how to support my breath better, and reduce tension in my jaw. My voice felt strong, and I was more excited than nervous about performing on national television. This was the moment I'd been working toward for 12 weeks. Mom called on the 4th day before the performance. She sounded uncomfortable, and I knew immediately something was wrong. She told me Brandon had asked her to pass along a message. He wanted to apologize and talk. I stayed quiet and let her finish. She said she told Brandon he needed to do serious self-reflection about his behavior, that he couldn't just apologize because the public backlash was affecting his reputation and career. She said she wasn't sure if his desire to talk was genuine or strategic. I thanked Mom for being honest with me. Then I told her I wasn't ready to talk to Brandon and might never be, that some relationships can't be repaired no matter how much someone apologizes, that I was focusing on building the life and career I wanted rather than fixing a family dynamic that was broken long before the graduation party. Mom said she understood and that she was proud of me for setting boundaries. We talked for another hour about my upcoming performance and album release. She asked if she could watch the morning show, and I said yes. The morning of the performance, I woke up at 5 and did my vocal warm-ups in the shower. Louise picked me up at 6 and we drove to the studio. Nathan met us there with my outfit and makeup artist. The green room was small but comfortable, and I spent an hour getting ready while reviewing my talking points for the interview portion. The host was friendly when we met backstage and told me she loved my story, said it would inspire a lot of people. I walked onto the set at 8:30 and the studio audience applauded. The interview lasted 6 minutes, and I talked about the surgery recovery and finding my voice, both literally and figuratively. Then I performed my single live with a small band backing me up. My voice was strong and clear, and I hit every note perfectly. The audience gave me a standing ovation. The performance video was posted online immediately after the show ended. It went viral within hours. 5 million views in 24 hours. Comments pouring in from people all over the world. Music blogs and entertainment sites writing articles about my comeback. My phone didn't stop buzzing all day. 2 days later, my album released. I spent release day doing radio interviews and social media promotion. Louise monitored the sales numbers obsessively and kept texting me updates. By the end of the first week, the album had debuted at number 3 on the charts, the highest first-week sales my label had seen from a new artist in years. The combination of my story and the quality of the music and all the publicity had created the perfect launch. My label threw a small celebration at their office, and everyone kept congratulating me. Louise and I went to my favorite restaurant that night to celebrate properly, just the two of us in a quiet corner booth. She ordered champagne and told me she was proud of how I'd handled everything, from the confrontation to the recovery. I realized, sitting there, that standing up to my family had been terrifying but necessary. It opened doors I didn't know were possible, gave me permission to stop accepting their treatment and start building something better. 6 months passed. I was on a national tour performing in venues I'd once only dreamed about, sold-out shows in major cities, fans singing along to every word. My voice was stronger than ever, and I'd built a career on my own terms without family support or approval. Mom and I met for coffee every few weeks, and our relationship was slowly improving. She'd started standing up to Dad more and setting her own boundaries. But I'd accepted that Dad and Brandon might never be part of my life again, and I was genuinely okay with that. I'd found my own family in Louise and Fiona and Nathan and the fans who supported my music. People who celebrated my success instead of resenting it, who showed up when I needed them, who believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. That was enough.